Servus, Matthias Eichler here, and this is Singletrack. Today I'm super excited to bring you a conversation with Riley Nachtrieb from West Seattle, who just crushed an OKT and FKT on the Olympic Discovery Trail on the Olympic Peninsula. OKT, only known time, FKT, fastest known time, first person to do the whole thing. This 135-mile track led her from Port Townsend to La Push via Port Angeles, Lake Crescent, and Forks. She's the first person who ran the entire newly opened trail in one go, starting in Port Townsend and reaching the Pacific Ocean some 40 plus hours later. But before we dive in, I've got a brand new product feature for you. This is the Arc'teryx Aerios 30 pack. I'll start off with a question. When you are looking for gear, are you a minimalist or a maximalist? Do you look for minimal features that exactly do the trick and nothing more? Or are you looking for a thing that sort of does it all? I usually am more of a minimalist. There are certain features I consider must-have, but I want to avoid all the frills and extra stuff that I might not need. Problem with that thinking is that I often find myself lacking some elements I didn't think I needed and ended up missing. Well, that won't happen with the Aerios 30 pack. This is a fast packing pack that's half ultra running vest in the front and biggish day pack in the back. Sort of the biggest size you can still consider a day pack. The designers at Arc'teryx must have gone to the drawing board and decided to include every feature the team came up with. Hydration reservoir, check. Back support, check. Every adjustment strap you can think of, check. That includes a space for ice axis, poles, helmet, rope, jacket, water bottle. Yes, and that is just the back of the pack. On the front, the shoulder strap and hip band are full-blown running vest. All the pockets for soft flasks, phone, gel, everything. Does this everything pack make for a good pack? I don't know. As I said, I'm more of a minimalist pack guy. All the straps and bungees sort of hang everywhere and annoy me. But that got me thinking, well, for what occasion or activity would I use a pack like this? Well, I realize, and you won't be surprised if I go there, for hut tracking in the Alps, this pack would be perfect. It's not huge, since you don't need to carry stove and sleeping bag in the Alps, but it's big enough to carry a lot of gear, and it offers enough adjustment possibilities that if you're hiking several days around Mont Blanc, you can stash all your gear and adjust the fit as needed. So go and hike the Alps with the Arc'teryx Aerios 30 pack. It was anywhere in your bucket list, and now you got the pack for it already. You are welcome. All right, back to the rainy Pacific Northwest and Riley on her quest to be the first person to run the entire Olympic Discovery Trail. Riley, you're on Singletrack. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
This is super exciting, partially because I love really big, hairy, audacious projects, and you just did something super big and super hairy and super exciting, but also because you just did it a few days ago, so everything is really fresh. So super exciting. Riley, tell our listeners where you're from. Let's start there.
Yeah, I'm an ultra endurance runner from West Seattle, Washington, USA. Born and raised here, and yeah.
Awesome. So West Seattle is not quite on the Olympic Peninsula. So, well, perhaps before we dive into where the project is at, how did you get into ultra running? Because, I mean, this is like, something that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, totally. So I've been running all of my life. I remember winning the little elementary school jogathon when I was like in 4th grade. And then in middle school, I ran track, and I kind of fell out of the love for running because you're just running in circles for I did the 1 mile and 2 mile in middle school. It just got so boring. So I fell out of the love for it. And then transferring into high school, my mom made me do cross country because she knew I loved to run. So I started doing cross country in high school, And I did it for 4 years and became the cross country captain. And the thing was, I'm not the fastest person on the team. I was like in the back of the pack. But everyone on the team said I could run the longest. In the practices, I ran 2 cross-country practice and back. So I guess I took that in stride and looked if it was possible to run over a marathon's distance. So yeah, that's how I stumbled into ultra running.
I think that is a very sort of common story, right? People realize, oh man, I'm not the fastest. What can I do? I'm like, ooh, I could last the longest.
Totally, for sure. And yeah, it just amazed me how people were running like all these distances from 50 miles to 100, even 200 miles. And this was senior year of high school, so that was in 2020. I graduated in 2020. So that was like what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, almost 2 years ago, right? I mean, 2022 graduation is coming up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's when I found out about ultra running.
So, and did you approach it that you said, okay, there is something where after marathon you just don't stop, you keep running? Did you find a race to sign up for, or did you immediately look at these projects where you're like, okay, you know, West Seattle, 50 miles as the crow flies, how far would that take me? Let's just go out and run.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I did, this was in high school, the first thing I did was look on the All Trails app, the map of all the trails throughout Washington. And my family is very active in like mountaineering, and my dad is a former adventure racer. So I did have the privilege of having that background. So I just gathered all the maps we had in our house. I looked at the internet to see like what was the longest trail or route that was fairly close to me. And I wasn't looking at specifically trail running, because like there's no trails in West Seattle. It's only concrete. So yeah, I basically just looked at all the routes and said, like, let's see what I can do, and started planning it out. And that's ultimately how I found the ODT trail.
I mean, this is super cool because I love, I do love that phase in a project, in a dream where, you know you have to train. At some point you have to put your shoes on and actually hit the road and get yourself to a place where you can run these distances. But there's also this time where you pore over maps and you try to picture yourself in these places and figure out, you know, if that is not just doable, but also inspiring, because there needs to be something that carries you if you're going for so long, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it like everything's at your fingertips. It was just like it just hits you so hard when you figure out like running these distances, it's possible. And you see people, the first person that I really looked up to, the first person that I saw running these miles, was Courtney Dauwalter, and she just finished the Western States in, I think it was 2017. It was her first time, and that's what really sparked me. I was like, she ran for 17 hours, 100 miles. That's insane.
And just no stopping.
Yeah, not only her, but hundreds of people. And so this just like, I just became fascinated, almost obsessed. Like I'm still obsessed right now. It's crazy.
A little sore, but still obsessed.
Oh my gosh! Like, yeah, it's the only thing I talk about.
That's amazing. So you poured over maps, and so you discovered the Olympic Discovery Trail, and that trail. Let's talk about this a little bit. A, how did you find it? And then give our viewer listeners, they're not viewing us, they're listening to us, give our listeners a little bit of an overview of what the trail's all about.
Yeah, so like I said, I found it on the All Trails map, and it was just this vast, like just extensively long trail that spans across the Olympic Peninsula, Washington's Olympic Peninsula. And I'm more of an ocean girl rather than a mountain girl. So I've loved the Olympic Peninsula all of my life, and I was like, I have to do this. I have to run across it. And so yeah, basically it's short. ODT is what's short for it, and it's a 135-ish mile long trail that spans from Port Townsend to La Push, Washington, and it is about you get about 6,500 feet of vert in total, so it's fairly flat, and it's all pavement. It's
Oh,
all
man.
pavement, and like probably 80% of it's along Highway 101, so that famous busy highway.
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah, so
everyone
it starts at Port Townsend and it sort of hugs the northern border of the Olympic Peninsula, if you will, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and it ends in the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, so
I mean, it's a beautiful route on paper, but as you're saying, there are some challenges in the sense that you are spending a lot of time going right along the highway, right?
yeah, totally. The first 20 miles was right along the highway. And I started at 7 in the morning, so that was like, it was on a Saturday. It wasn't fairly busy, but still there were cars like whooshing past me.
Yeah. Oh
And the
man.
side of the highway was so tiny. Like you had to run on the white line. So like you had to be really cautious.
Yeah. Well, to give a little bit of a history, and I don't know if you can fill some pieces in, but the trail in totality is fairly new. Like I think the different communities in various places have been working on various bits and pieces and trying to make these connections in order to make this a full trail. And so in the past few years there has been some promotion around it, but it is, because as you're saying, it is mostly pavement, and it is along Highway 101, which, it's not a freeway, it's not a busy, well, it is the main connector highway for the Olympic Peninsula, so it is busy, but it's not like freeway busy. But it's been promoted as a bicycle trail probably a little bit more. Also because of the distance, right? I mean, who runs 135 miles, right?
Yeah, who would run that? Some crazy person.
Some crazy person. All right, so Olympic Discovery Trail, that is 135 miles. And so this wasn't your first attempt, right? So let's sort of ride back in history. You've made an attempt in 2019.
Yeah, so basically I discovered the ODT in 2019, May 2019. And then that whole summer I was just like, I'm going to do this in August in 2019. I was 17 years old. The longest run I've done was, I think, a 27-mile trail run with my dad on Tiger Mountain. So looking back, I was in over my head. Here's this 17-year-old just wanting to do 135 miles with like no experience at all. But yes, I did it. Well, I didn't do it.
You attempted it. Yes.
Yeah, I attempted it. I stopped at 82 miles in 21 hours. And I stopped because I had a stress fracture in my second metatarsal bone on my foot. And if it wasn't for my dad telling me, like, you have to stop. Like, I don't know what this is gonna form into. You like have to stop right now. I would have kept on running.
It's like, well, I mean, that's like the ultra runner life, right? It's like,
Yeah,
is this pain really gonna make me stop running? I'll
yeah,
just keep going.
yeah. I didn't know what to expect running these long distances. I thought it was normal for your feet to hurt. Yeah, but turns out I literally ran until I broke my foot.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So back then, well, I mean, 82 miles is still an insane distance, not
yeah.
just at your age, but for anyone. Like, I've not run 82 miles. I mean, this is an incredible achievement as it is, but clearly there was unfinished business.
Oh yeah, totally. Ever since like I stepped away from that trailhead where I stopped, I just became obsessed and hungry to finish it. Like for the past 3 years, it's just been like ODT, ODT. This race is for the ODT. All this training's for the ODT. This triathlon's for the ODT. So it was on my in my head every single day.
So you were able to recover reasonably well. The beauty of being young, stress fractures heal fairly quickly.
Yeah, so that was the summer, that was the August between my junior and senior year of high school. So I couldn't, so that means I missed my senior year of cross country. I was cross country captain and I couldn't run.
Oh no.
I was the photographer. Um, but I think I started running in late November. I was putting down a couple miles, and by January in 2020, I was pretty solid. So I'm really lucky for
Yeah, no,
that.
that's good. So you were able to recover and start training again, and the project didn't leave your mind. Everything was focused then on going back out there, which is
Yeah.
incredible. So now it's 2022 and you felt ready and you were ready. How did you make a determination to say, okay, now is the time?
Man, that's a good question. Everyone, like, I was gonna do it no matter what. I said 2022 is the time. Like, I put on all this effort, like, 2 years. I think I can do it now. Um, but focusing on, like, when in 2022, that was a hard part. I wanted to do it when the weather was going to be good, because it the Olympic Peninsula is a rainforest. It's a temperate rainforest, like inches per day. So, and then it gets like really hot during the summer. Like in August, when I first attempted it, it was like 70 degrees. It was crazy.
Well,
Um,
it's funny, right? We as Western
yeah,
Washington people, we're just like, oh, it got really hot. It was 70 degrees. But the problem
yeah.
is that the rainforest makes it really humid, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not a dry heat that you sort of can handle. And this
Mhm.
humidity adds a level of just like thickness in the air that makes it really hard in
Yeah.
the summer.
Yeah. And like living here like all my life, you can still feel it in your throat, the humidity. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
So
so
you picked May and you picked one of the rainiest days, but we'll talk about that.
yeah, so um in January January was when I like really set myself up for doing this like earlier in the year. Um so January I ran a 50K. February I just trained. I think the highest mileage I did was 70 miles in a week. And then March I did a couple trail marathons, and April I did a Whidbey Island Traverse FKT, and that was a 55-mile FKT run, and that was just to see if I could actually like run for that long and have my legs not fall off. Um, and then in May, I was like, let's give it a go. I see a weather window that's probably gonna be good. Um, yeah, why not and just do it?
So you mentioned your dad doing adventure runs. Like, does he
Yeah.
does he help you think this through? Are you bouncing ideas off of him? Are you just discovering all of this on your own? The training aspect, and then also the practical preparation of what you need to be out there. Do you just research it all online? Do you read books? Where do you get sort of that knowledge? Where do you acquire big kind of all of this information that you need in order to make that happen?
Yeah, so it's basically just from everywhere. I lean on my dad for a lot of logistic help. So he knows how to treat blisters, a lot of first aid stuff, because he's used to doing all these races out in the middle of nowhere for like a week. That's what adventure racing is. Um, so a lot of help from my dad. He really helps me on what trails are good for different things that I want to focus on. So like going up Tenerife is good for vert. Going on all these different types of mountains are good for this types of stuff. Um, but then a lot is from the internet and also just leaning on friends that I've made in the community because I'm still new to the sport. Like it's been like 3 years. So yeah, it's just been from everywhere.
I know this is super good, right? Because it is an important skill to find a way of gathering all of the information that you need, both in order to actually be prepared, in order to be successful, but also mentally in order to feel confident. There's like, okay, I feel like I've got the pieces together to make this happen, especially on these long ultras. You're going through the night, you have to think about nutrition and clothing changes
Yeah.
and all of this stuff, right? And you need to know, well, what shoes should I wear? What socks should I wear if I'm dripping wet, right? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, these are all like millions of little decisions that we need to make when we do these things. And it's coming up, going to REI and buying all the right stuff is one thing, right? But being confident, like, this is going to work for me, right?
Yeah, and it's so personal. Like one thing might work for another person, like it probably won't work for me. Like a lot of people like pickle juice. It's disgusting to me. um, so yeah, it's so personal. Everything about it is personal. Um, so I guess like I did a lot of experimentation with all these runs leading up to the ODT. I just experimented on the shoes, on the socks, like you said. Um, Luckily, we're in a place where it rains all the time, so we're pretty used to it, running in the rain. Nutrition, I experimented with a lot, and just like running for a long time into the night, even. I did a couple night runs around my neighborhood. I did the Goggins Challenge, the 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And that really got me used to just waking up at 0 dark 30 and running for 4 miles when I didn't want to. So yeah, just like building up on what works for me. And yeah, it really like helped me in the experiments.
Yeah. I love, like, I mean, I love sleep, and so I hate
Yeah.
getting up in the middle of the night, but I love realizing that it's sort of possible. Like when you
Oh
do
yeah.
it for the first time and then you realize, oh, I mean, I don't know. I've not done it for multiple days, so I can't say how it would feel the third night, how some people do it. But so it's sort of cheating one night yourself and just doing it. I think it's actually quite exhilarating to be realize that you're capable of that, right?
Totally. It's so satisfying. Like, I literally did that. I ran in the night. I survived. Like, my legs haven't fallen off. But, yeah, it's so fascinating to me, like how far we can push ourselves, like how like we sometimes we limit ourselves like without even trying. So just like going out there and seeing what you can do and seeing that you can do it, it's like the potential is there. It's awesome.
It is. It is super cool, and it's super cool the way to hear the way you talk about this experience and this achievement. Because I
Yeah.
think no, I think everybody who's done it or everybody who thinks about doing sort of these audacious runs, and everybody knows for themselves what that means, right?
Hmm.
That there is so much potential in us that we can harness if we allow ourselves to do it.
Yeah, I mean, going back to wanting to run 135 miles at 17, the longest I've ran was 27 miles and I got to 82. I didn't know when, like, I didn't know if I was actually going to finish that time. I just wanted to see, like, how far I could actually get. And 82 miles just blew me away. Like, my feet carried me that long.
Yeah, yeah, and right, it's the miles. It's also the time, right? I mean, it's just
Yeah,
you just have to keep moving and keep problem solving, and yeah, it takes you to a very different place.
it's nonstop, like go, go, go. Like you run to where your crew meets you, you devour all the food, and then you're probably there for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and to like chit chat, have fun, and then you're just back on the road running, and then you do that all over again, like each segment. You're literally on your feet for that, like that amount of time.
Yeah. So let's talk about your attempt. So you
Yeah.
picked a day. Um, May, supposedly nice. It wasn't nice. It was an absolute horrible weather, but you did it. And so, in preparation, tell me a little bit about your crew, how you broke it up, where they met you in terms of, how many sections, how you built the aid stations, what kind of support you got, and food and everything. Let's just kind of break
Yeah.
sort of the project down.
Let's start with the crew because I don't think I could have done it without them. It was my mom, my dad, and my grandma and grandpa. They were there for the first attempt, and so they automatically like they had to be there to see my redemption. Um, and then I had my friend Herman Mayer. He is one of my really good friends. He's a West Seattle High School student. Um, and then Troy Hasler, he is a local in like the ultra running community here. He's one of the leaders of the Run Determined group. They go out on Tiger and run all the time. And then I had Jeff McCann. He's one of my dad's longtime friends. They used to adventure race together, and so he was gonna be my dad's like partner in crime, his like little support like co-captain. Um, and then I think that's it. Yeah, I think yeah, that's oh yeah, that's it. Because I'm seeing that because I was planning to have my other friend Shane there, Shane O'Brien, and I met him a couple weeks ago, and he saw what I was going to do, and he was like, I have to pace this. And so we were all planning for him to pace me during the night sections. But then in the middle of the day, Saturday, when I was at like 40 miles, he texted me saying, I got COVID.
Oh
I
my
can't
gosh.
pace you.
Oh no.
And I was like, oh my gosh, Shane, I'm so sorry to hear that. he
Hmm.
like he just woke up and felt so nauseous, and I just saw him the early like a couple of days before, so I was like, oh man, Herman, you're gonna have to bike the next section. Because he was planning to run I think 4 sections with me. So yeah, I was from 4 pacers down to 3 pacers. So yeah, I
Talk,
feel so bad for Shay.
oh man, talking about problem solving on the fly, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
were basically expecting him to show up in a few hours, and he,
yeah, literally. Like, I didn't know until I ran into a crew station and my dad told me like Shane can't come. He has COVID. I was like, oh, well, Herman, get your bike out. Let's crush it. Let's crush this 11-mile section.
double duty for you, sir.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah,
you had an incredible team with you, which is always the backbone of any of these projects where you really need someone. There are certain projects where you can sort of do it yourself, but on a project of this length, you just need to have people supporting. So, how long were each section? How did you determine when you wanted the aid stations?
yeah. So I based the first 82 miles off of the first attempt because I've ran that before and I knew where I needed help when I needed to eat. So the first 82 miles, I think the longest section I had without my crew was 13 or 14 miles. So every section was below that mileage, that I would see them. Um, and yeah, and then after the 82 miles, so the rest of the run, I think the longest section was 15 miles, give or take. Um, so yeah, basically I just figured out like when I would need to eat. I didn't want to carry too much in my hydration pack because that would also put strain on my back and I didn't want to carry that much stuff. So I just met them regularly and ate, drank, Theragunned my legs up.
And
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the advantages of it being a very accessible route, right? So you didn't have to
Yeah.
figure out, they didn't have to like drive around the mountain up a forest road for hours in order to catch you, right?
Yeah.
They were able to sort of drive ahead and just set up wherever you determined. So that was fairly easy logistically.
Yeah. Yes, totally. Like I think every cruise stop was at a trailhead, so we're really fortunate about that. There are outhouses at the place. Um, yeah, so I think the after Port Angeles, I went up to Lake Crescent. That was the most remote section. Um, we saw a mountain lion in the middle of the trail at like 4 in the morning. And that was the longest section. That was the 15 miler. Um, so yeah.
Nice. Oh, nice. And that was the middle of the night, but you had somebody with you.
Oh, it was so funny. So Jeff McCann was pacing me for that section, and my crew also didn't weren't they weren't sleeping at all. Like we both weren't sleeping. So here we are just stumbling across the trail. We were both hallucinating, both of us. Like Jeff was hearing people talking to him where we were just out there in the middle of nowhere. I kept seeing houses in like this on the side of the trail and like signs saying like go right when the trail was just like dead on straight. So we were seeing so many things. And I was looking down and Jeff was like, Riley, look up. And I was like, are you seeing that? And he was like, yeah, are you seeing that? And there's just a huge mountain lion in the middle of the trail, like a couple feet before us. And we thought, like, this is not a hallucination, this is real. So we backed off, we like walked a couple feet, and then the cougar saw us and just like went up on its four legs. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen one before. And then just looked at us and just slowly walked off the path. And we were like, oh my gosh, that was real. And Jeff, when we passed where the mountain lion was, Jeff kept on looking back because they stalk people. And I was looking so weak. If it wanted to kill me, it could have.
You were easy prey.
Oh yeah, I was hobbling along that. Yeah, and so yeah, that was it was so crazy to see that. It
Oh.
was massive.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you didn't get eaten so we can have this conversation.
Me too. Yeah, what if I stopped at 82 miles because of stress fracture. I stopped at 82 miles because I got eaten. Maybe the ODT wasn't for me.
Oh, all right. Well, good thing you're here. So, let's talk nutrition. How did you fuel yourself?
Yeah, so with the experiments I did before the run, I found out I had a pretty iron stomach. I could pretty much down anything. So I prioritized real whole food for like the first 50 miles because I knew I could down that. So it probably wasn't the healthiest real food. It's like it's like pizza and I had some oranges. I had a lot of spring energy, so those goos. Tailwind nutrition for the liquid like powder stuff. Um, I had a lot of bananas, more pizza. And then after the 50 miles, the plan was to switch to mostly liquids, so all of my nutrition through like Tailwind and Go Far nutrition, all that kind of stuff. But my stomach kept in place, like I didn't feel nauseous or anything, so I kept downing real food. Um, yeah, more pizza. I was basically fueling it off of pizza.
That's beautiful. I mean, this
And
is
it wasn't warm, it was cold.
no. When you're out there, the shittiest pizza is the
Yeah,
best, right?
yeah. I think Troy at mile I think 112 gave me my first heated meal. That was I think top ramen at this little bakery in Forks. It was the best thing I've ever had in my life. Yet he filmed me drinking it, and I almost started crying. And this was on the side of the highway, so cars were just swooshing past me as I was drinking this warm soup. It was pouring down rain. Yeah, that was the best.
I had a moment like that in during a really long run at night. It was fairly cold. It was still fairly early in the night, but I somebody gave me some coffee, and
Yeah.
it was hot and it was not sweet. And I like coffee in general, but it was just something so different in my stomach, and it was yeah. It almost made me
Yeah.
cry too. It was so perfect. It hit the spot in such the right way. Yeah, glorious.
Yeah. And it just gives you an extra boost. Like, I just like, it doesn't matter what it was. It was just something warm.
Yeah.
When you're just out there for like 36 plus hours, just in the cold, it can totally make a difference.
So when you crossed the 82-mile mark, was it emotional? Was that eventful? I mean, did you feel like, okay, this is really happening? How were you feeling in that moment?
Yeah, so right before I embarked on that section, the 82-mile mark was in that 50-mile section. So, and that was the longest section. So, right before I took about a 10-minute nap, and then my dad popped all of the blisters on my feet. I had basically a blister on each toe on both feet. So I was just miserable walking. Every step was so hard. I felt every blister. Um, but when I got to the 82-mile mark, when I saw the driveway I stopped at, it was just like, it was so surreal because it was just like, I never really comprehended before that I was actually running this. but right when I hit that driveway, it was just like, wow, I'm actually gonna finish this. I feel so much better than last time. Like, I can walk. There's no pain except for my blisters. Like, I can act. I'm gonna do this. It was it was the most like satisfying thing ever. It was probably better than finishing.
And then you still had 50 miles ahead of you. So it wasn't like, okay, now there's just this short segment to the finish, right? I mean, there is a whole lot more work that just the emotions alone don't carry you. You're embarking onto a place that you've never been at, right?
Yeah, I've never been past 82 miles, so it was all new to me. And it was just a mixture of like, I passed where I felt my weakest ever in my life, and I'm embarking on this new section, and I'm so excited to see like the beautiful landscapes and how the trail is, what rivers I'm going to be crossing. I was just so excited.
It is really cool because you were talking earlier that you used to run loops, right? I mean, you are then also embarking on new territory, so you can distract yourself by new things. And if I'm getting the timeline right, that's then also sort of starting to be daybreak, right? So you actually start seeing again, right?
Yeah, it was so great. Yeah, I think at mile 82 it was just at sunrise. So yeah, it was just a whole new day, a whole new trail. Like, my mind totally shifted. My blisters didn't hurt. It was a total change.
Daybreak is magical. If you've run all night and then you get daybreak, I mean, it does give you a whole new boost and everything, right?
Energy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was so magical.
Ah, fantastic. All right, so let's move towards the finish line. So you're hitting La Push, and you see the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, God. So I had about 20 miles on the highway until La Push, and that 20 miles took forever. It felt so long, because I was not anticipating to run through a second night. Like, I was just like, oh man, it's getting dark. This is gonna be really tough. I have to like bring it together. So yeah, that last 20 miles on the side of the highway in the nighttime, didn't know where I was going. I just knew I was going to the ocean. It just like every step hurt, and my feet were like concrete blocks, just pounding and pounding. I was barely running. I think I was at like a 15-minute mile, just slowly jogging. But I'm so thankful for my crew. I had my mom start pacing me that time. I had Jeff McCann pace me. Troy got on his bike and started pacing me. They all paced me, quite a few people into the finish. That finish was so bad, because I'm finishing on the ocean, on the coast, in the middle of the night, rainstorm, gale force winds. I was running into a headwind. So, well, I say I was running, I was just like slowly moving into it. Like, I couldn't even hear anyone cheer because the winds were so loud. But I just saw this long line of string lights, and that was the finish line. I was like, oh my god, I'm actually like finishing this thing. This is La Push. I've dreamed about this for 3 years, ever since I stopped at mile 82. And it was just like, wow. I did it.
That's fantastic. I mean, perhaps you envisioned it at like sunset with beautiful, like, this glowing sky in front of you, and you had a little bit of a different weather, but no matter what, you made it to the finish line. When you were paced in these last sections, how much did they entertain you? Was there a lot of talking and cheering you on, or did you have like headphones in and just like, let's just get going?
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the headphones. So usually on my runs, like on my regular runs, I listen to music, I listen to podcasts. During this FKT, I didn't put a single earbud in. Like, I didn't listen to anything. And it wasn't like, because I wasn't trying to, I just didn't feel a need to. But, yeah, so the last section with everyone there, I, they were cheering me on. They're like, you got this, Riley. One more, like, you got this one foot from the other. I wasn't responding. I was delusional. And they were just having conversations with themselves in the back of me. I was in the front. So yeah, I just listened in on their conversations, kind of like a podcast.
That's amazing. Kind of like a podcast. You entertain me behind me. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, they're just talking about like, because a lot of people, a lot of my pacers and crew, they've never met before, and so they're just saying like, oh, have you ran this route on Tiger? Oh, what about like this mountain on blah blah blah. And so they're all just talking about random stuff, and I was like, keep talking.
Fantastic.
I need this live podcast in the back of
me. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is so great. So it did take you longer than anticipated, but in the end nobody cares, right? You set yourself a project and you finished it. So congratulations. This is incredible.
Thank you. I'm still in shock I even did it. Like, I'm running up the stairs in my house now. Like, I can walk. I'm going to go on a bike ride later today. So I'm really, like, surprised how fast I've recovered. And it just doesn't seem like I did it. Like, it was 135 miles. And it feels so weird saying it, but like it didn't seem that long. Like looking back, it's like so crazy.
I don't want to sound like the old wise voice that's gonna school you, but I think there's a little bit of an emotional, mental aspect that sort of the endorphins carry you because you achieved something so great. I've had it a couple times that right after a big race, I was like, oh, I'm feeling surprisingly well. And then you start running too soon after. And that's when you actually injure yourself, right? Because your body is actually still completely fatigued. So, I mean, you are younger, so you can perhaps take it a little bit easier and stuff. But in general, I've had the experience that sort of that emotional high makes you want, oh, I'm just going to keep running. And then like a week later, you're like, Vom, wait a second. Why am I so injured?
I mean, it's so good to hear that. Like, I just need reminders like that. Exactly. Like, I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm totally new in this game. Like, I don't know what's after me. Like, I don't know what the recovery process is going to look like. Like, the longest... after the 82 miles, I was injured. I was sitting on a couch for like a week with my feet up. This time I can actually walk and like do things. So it's going to be interesting to see like how I can pace myself after running this.
Yeah, I think movement is good, but it needs to be super low intensity movement, right? Let the lactic acids flow out and keep active so you're not completely stiffening up. But don't put any strain on things because your body will sort of mentally, this is me being not in any way qualified other than personal experience, right? Here's the disclaimer, the legal disclaimer. No, but there is sort of this thing where your body remembers that you can hurt yourself that much, right? That you can put yourself through so much strain, and so you're willing to go and crush it fairly quickly again. But your body does need healing and does need rest, and that's when you build longevity, so you don't get long-term injured.
Yeah.
And so I think it's good to be patient and to allow yourself a good couple weeks where you really don't do much other than moving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I don't see myself running, I think, for the next month.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's good if you can have that patience and then find other things like biking or whatever. I think that's very good.
Yeah, I've in the 55-mile Whidbey Island Traverse I did in I think in April. I just broke I rode my bike for I think like a couple times after I finished, and that really helped me with the process of recovery because you're moving your body, but you're just not pounding on your feet, and the feet are like the most vulnerable points of your body during these ultra runs. So I find biking really beneficial.
Yeah. No, that's true. So let's quickly talk practical. For the Whidbey Island one, you posted and submitted it to the fastest known time website. I'm assuming you're planning to do the same thing with this trail, with this project.
Yeah, it just got submitted yesterday.
Perfect. I'm glad. I want to see
Yeah.
it up there. That's exciting.
It was so funny because I was holding back from submitting the ODT as a route. So those like FKT watchers don't see it and say like, "Oh, I'm gonna do that this weekend."
Well, it is 135 miles. I don't know if somebody goes out there and say, "Let's just quickly do it this
Well,
weekend."
there are some crazy people out there. But I feel bad, but I was kind of gatekeeping the route. So yesterday in the afternoon, I submitted the route, and Alex Bonds submitted it, and then like seconds later, I already wrote out my report, picked the pictures out. I submitted it, my attempt, seconds later, and then it got submitted. So, and
Fantastic.
accepted.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And I am hoping and assuming you're also in contact with the Women Who FKT project.
Yeah, so yeah, they've been so supportive. That group is amazing. Like, I think I found out about them in February, and I told them about this huge run I was going to plan on doing, and I mentioned I was 20 years old, and they're like, "What?" They're just my biggest cheerleaders. Like, that group is so amazing. Like, we have a Slack channel, and we all submit like what we're gonna be planning on doing, and we're just like, "You got it, yeah, we're gonna be following you on the tracker, go." Yeah, so
That's
it was
amazing.
it
That
was
is
super awesome.
that is super cool. That will definitely this project your run will definitely be one of the highlights for the year
Yeah,
in
and like
for the group.
there's so many like women who've FKT'd so far this year. Like, there's probably over 20, I think. I haven't really been keeping track, but um, this past weekend when I was running the FKT, another girl, I think a part of the group, was running a Cape Cod FKT, and that was a 65-mile one. But yeah, it's just like blowing up. Like, FKTs are getting super popular.
I mean, I've been fascinated with them, and similar to you, trying to gatekeep it because you're worried. I love the idea to come up with something that's iconic enough that Alex, the person who actually has to determine if it's a worthwhile route, so it's not just from your house to the grocery store and back, right? That it's something that people
Yeah.
can relate to.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it needs to be something where not just the super fast runners have already done it, right? Because then I can still be inspired. Like, I've enjoyed running rim to rim to rim, but I don't have a chance of being on the leaderboard, right? And
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's totally like it. I remember him being on a panel, on a Women Who FKT panel, and saying that it should be a significant route, but it also should like have a personal side to it. like as the person submitting it. And I thought that was super interesting because like why run your fastest on a route you don't really care about?
Yeah, there are a couple people that sort of like they kind of like brush through the region and sort of like pick off all the FKT routes, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, if they enjoy it, go for it. Like,
Right.
last Saturday, the week before I attempted this, I went to a film screening. Jason Hardrath,
Hmm.
yeah, Jason Hardrath. He has the most FKTs out of everyone, and I went to a film of him accomplishing the one. I think it's called the Bulgers, the
Yeah,
100.
exactly. Washington Bulgers, yeah, the 100
Yeah,
highest peaks in, or
yeah,
most prominent peaks in Washington
yeah.
State.
He just zoomed past those. Like, it was insane, but he was saying, like, how much it meant to him, and, like, if you're going so fast and that still means something to you, like, why not go for it, you
Hmm.
know? Like, in any way, like, it should be meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it, since we're talking meaningful, is it too early about asking, for asking that question about what's next?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. So, talking about the runner's high after accomplishing something. Yesterday,
It's the most dangerous time to ask that question, really, right? You're still in recovery, so you really shouldn't. But
and, yeah, why not just like you're sitting on your butt for like maybe 2 days, like in recovery, like you're just scourging like all these different things you can do. And for me, like for 3 years, it's only been the ODT. I pushed everything off until after the ODT, and so now I have like so many things I want to do. So yesterday, I impulsively uh, I applied to run the Cardon Long Challenge, and that is a 72-kilometer ultramarathon in northern India at 18,000 feet.
oh my gosh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
How did you find that one?
it's really random, but my dad also from being a former adventure racer, he films adventure racing, and so he has filmed all these crazy events, and he knows some race directors who put on these like insane events, like the one I just mentioned, and I just saw that the registration opened. I was like, why not?
Why not? Oh
Like
man.
I've been obsessed with like India and like China and all these foreign countries and their ultra running culture, their trail running culture. So it'll be super interesting to see what it's about. And I was looking at the results from a couple years ago, and out of about 200 people who have ran the Cardon Law, only 4 women ran it. 4 women out of like 200 people. So yeah, hopefully that would be I'm super excited.
Wow, that is a huge project and absolutely not what I expected. Way to like take it up to another level, right? I don't
Yeah,
know what I expected, but I mean there's certain things that would have been reasonable, like I don't know,
yeah,
sections of the PCT or like running Wonderland Trail or something, but you're taking immediately to a new level. I like it.
yeah. I mean, I think what is good for me is to set these big goals and just set tiny goals in between in preparation. So I'm planning on running races and doing like more FKTs in between then and now. And the Cardon Law is in September of this year, so I have enough time to train and acclimate. So
Yeah, the acclimation, being at altitude will be a huge factor, especially if you when
yeah,
you're living in West Seattle at sea level.
yeah. Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna go over to Colorado. I have some family over there, and a lot of people have told me to just run the Leadville 100, not the race, but the route to get the elevation in. So I may dabble into that kind of stuff. So.
Amazing. Riley, that was an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that project. Thank you for having this vision in wanting to put this out there. So many times people have ideas and then don't actually follow through. It was super, super exciting to follow you along on Instagram and have you on the show and you sharing your success. Before you go, please tell people where they can reach out to you, how to best get in contact with you, social media, email, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, I mainly use Instagram. It's Riley Nachtrieb, my name. For most of my announcements and what I'm doing. I use Facebook for the grandparents. So, yeah, it's Instagram. My friend Viv Smith actually filmed this attempt, so we're hoping to put out a video about it on my YouTube channel. It's Riley Nachtrieb. Yeah, I think that's it.
Perfect. We'll link that, and please share when the video is out so I can share it out to the Singletrack listeners. I love it. Thank you so much. What an incredible story.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting.